Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome in to Object Catchup, the series where we discuss object show episodes right after watching them. Whether they are new or old, famous or unknown, it doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, today is going to be a little bit of a random day. I'm not going to lie. I didn't plan out today very much. However, there's one release that we absolutely have to be taking a look at today because it is a big deal, and that is Purgatory 1A. Purgatory 1A released about 10 hours ago. This is a show that has been a thing ongoing for many months now, over 6 months since it was originally announced. I really don't know too much about it. I think it's created by DerpyDoofus, which is a YouTuber that has made a bunch of BFDI style content and managed to get quite a lot of views and subs that way. Like there aren't that many. I think, I think the amount of object show YouTubers, I feel like there aren't that many usually. So making it as an object show YouTuber is definitely complicated. So good job to them for managing to do that. And their show, which has been on production for quite a while, has released 1A. Episode 1A of Purgatory is called Get Me Out of Here. I don't. I'll be honest. I don't know anything about it. I'm completely blind. Well, let's head into it. Let's jump into it so that we can talk about it and do all of that amazing stuff. All right, let's go. Okay, I have just come back from watching Purgatory 1A, Get Me Out of Here. So, we have here our fundamentals placed down here in this show, alright, in this 1A. We have a set of fundamentals. We have the explanation of the show, Purgatory, how it works, its format, which is a little bit different than the usual. We also have, of course, the main episode is debated to introduce our contestants, get to see them, who they are, what they're doing, how they each approach the truck ride, and then eventually they end up joining. We have our first interaction with Button, and then eventually we will get to see Purgatory itself, and then the challenge in 1B. All right, so this 1A is entirely built to show us the fundamentals of the show primarily, which is solid. I like it. The way that 1A is structured here, because usually we have 1A and 1Bs that are kind of random. I think that this 1A is pretty solid. It's a good transition piece indeed into 1B later. It does, of course, leave me still a little bit unsure heading into 1B because we have seen no action in like the proper way, right? 90% of this episode takes place in a truck, right, and all that stuff. So we don't necessarily get to see a lot of action and graphical stuff. So we're a bit there's maybe a little bit of unsurety about how the show's gonna animate action and stuff. However, from the looks of things, from both the animation department, like who's on it, and just the show in general, the way that it looks and the way that it's stylized is very smooth, it's very nice. And so far, I absolutely am inclined to trust it in the way that it is, because it's giving me confidence. Basically, it's a show that, even though I haven't seen too much action in the show yet, the way that these little scenes have been animated, they give me a lot of hope. All right. So let's discuss everything and everyone. Okay, we're gonna do that today because I don't know when Purgatory 1B is releasing, so we're gonna do that all today. It's gonna be a long little segment because I think that this show is really interesting. So prize is a ball that generates stuff. We are surprisingly realistic with it. It is not an omega ball of power that just immediately generates a thing. It takes time. It has to activate it. It takes time. It's a proper item that's not like from the skies above. It's like a 3D printer with extra steps. So that's all right. That's cool. It's gonna be interesting to see it for sure. And you know, they do have a lot of shows do have this prize style, by the way, of like, oh hey, you can win a wish, whatever. You know, like a lot of shows they have a prize being like a wish or like a genie lamp or like whatever you want, right? This is no exception. Of course, the prize is a ball that gives you whatever you want. So there are a lot of show prizes that end up along these lines. There's like three categories of show prizes, of generic show prizes. One of them is a random item that makes no sense, but everybody loves. And the second one is just money, just a random X amount of money that the contestant for some reason wants, even though they are in a society that doesn't use money. Or number three is an item that does whatever they want them to do. This is on category number three. But then we have Purgatory. So we have 4 teams of 6. Every episode, 2 teams lose and will be put up for elimination. And then we send them by liking or disliking, which means that we're probably going to be using the overall system of plus and minuses, right? Likes, like the dislikes, no, the likes minus the dislikes, and then the lowest number ends up going down on each team. So they drop down to Purgatory. And as they drop down to Purgatory, we have a 3-way showdown where just one straight up challenge. The winner of it comes back into the game. The last place gets eliminated, and the second place stays in. And eventually, in the next Purgatory, we end up joining them. The 2 people end up joining them. So this is a hilariously like, oh, it's not over complicated, it's just over difficult. Like, it's just difficult to do, because if you imagine this, right, I mean, like, from a production standpoint, you would need to make 50% more challenge than before. Because it's like, okay, we're doing a challenge for the team, then we're putting them up for voting. So that's an episode structure. But then the next episode needs to have the elimination ceremony, then the challenge for Purgatory. Person comes in, person gets eliminated, and then we have the challenge itself, the main challenge itself, and then an elimination. So what I'm trying to say is that every episode needs to have 2 challenges, basically, which is going to be interesting. Unless every episode is split into A and B, and A is the first part and B is the regular challenge, which it could technically do that, because the way that this format is structured does allow for that. Where like the Purgatory challenge would be the A episode, and then the B episode would be the main challenge. It could do that. It absolutely could. Because it just is it. Or a full episode would need to have both of them, which is quite a lot. So I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know if I wouldn't mind every episode being split into A and B. That's something crazy. I'd never say that. But in the way that this show's structured, maybe it would make sense. Just split everything into A and B. Like, I mean, that would of course make double the episodes, but I mean, if you're gonna do it anyways, then like, I mean, it gets them out faster, it gets people to talk about them, like, I don't see problem. I don't see problem, actually. Like, if you imagine, instead of every 3 months, it's released every month and a half, the A part and then the B part. Yeah, looking good to me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling it. But anyways, then we have everybody in the truck, and we have our contestants. Since this is a very TV-esque reality show featuring people like properly, in it, we get to discuss our characters. So let's try to find out who are the favorites. So first we have Zippy, the Ziploc bag. What is their personality type? Extremely impatient. Extremely impatient, sort of low temper, but not that strong. They're just kind of whiny, I guess, in a way. They're not exactly striking me as a extremely strong candidate for success here. I'm not gonna lie. They they don't feel like they're gonna get out early, but they could get. Nah, they do kind of feel like they're getting out early. Second, we have a spray bot, not like a freaking, what even is that? Is that like a spray deodorant? But like, they're like a buff tough guy, just kind of training, just overly serious, bro. Stop doing that. Very logical buff fella who's strong. Of course, we don't really know how they're gonna be when like directly interacting with people. However, we could possibly have a strong contender here, of course, based on just the raw physicality of it. But yeah, we need to see if they're like buff guy that's like the team leader mentality, or it's buff guy that's just like a guy that's tough and rebel, and then that's gonna be kind of difficult to see. Then we have we have the little scared boot. So this scared boot ends up actually falling out of the truck later and ends up chasing them back, which should theoretically take them quite a while because of course the truck goes faster than running. But eventually they might be able to get to the mansion in like a later episode. This is probably we're probably only gonna see them like arrive in like episode 3 or something, probably, or something, because like it's gonna take them a long time to actually reach it because of course the truck ended up driving around for at least 20 minutes, which is like a couple kilometers for sure. If a truck's going at 50 kilometers per hour, that's like 10 kilometers. Running 10 kilometers is not that easy. Right, you're gonna need to sleep. So this boo's gonna need to, those ice skates are gonna need to work to get there. But I'm sure eventually they're gonna come in and try to cause a ruckus, maybe invade. But all right. Then we have we have Harp. So Harp ends up being they're very tactical, but like they're trying to play mind games. As you can see, they played the mind game on the ice skates that eventually makes them fall out of the truck. Um, so they're going, oh, I've heard the story about the people who went on the show and didn't return, and that's the end of the story. It was such a complicated story. They're okay. I mean, I'm not. I mean, what do I have to say about it? Yeah. So they are the type of competitor that feels like the meta game. There's always one of those where like I usually praise them for being, oh, you're so tactical, you're gonna make it far. But then Harp's probably getting eliminated in like the middle of the table because usually it's like it works to start when there's obviously worse, but at a certain point in the mid season of a reality show, you need to start forming bonds and relationship. And like here, Harp is the type of character that wouldn't do that so far. I mean, they would try to form work alliances or whatever, but in general, it's not looking good for them, I think, in making it to the big leagues. Then we've got a much more logical sort of moon lamp, which when somebody like hits them, they end up getting turned on. So they end up getting they end up being more, not necessarily they might not be a scientist, but they're interested in the field of, learning how the thing works, what the hell it does, how it works, right? They're very logical and methodical. You see, that's the type of character that I would expect probably would make it far, because they just immediately set off an important question, right? They set off an important and interesting question, and when you have a character that sets off an important and interesting question, it just feels like that type of character that you are important, right? That's why all of like science-y characters end up making it usually pretty far, because they pose questions that are important, and it's like, I'm sure that they're not just saying, yo, I'm this character wants to figure out how the prize works, and then not have anything interesting about how the prize works. It's like, this is a character that's gonna try to figure it out, there's gonna be a plot arc, it's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna make it far, in my opinion. They strike me as someone who's make it far. Of course, these are my predictions. I'm not exactly sure, but they immediately strike me as a late gamer. Absolutely. Then we have the corn dog. So the corn dog is the overly smart sort of but like overly dumb smart. They're not actually smart, but they act smart. And go, oh, I have such intellect and capability. They, I would say that they could make it far. However, what I think is going to happen? This is the type of plot arc that usually happens. Corndog is sort of having a relation, like, is sort of going to have a duo with Crayon. And Crayon is like the more kid style learning from above style character, right? So they're like kind of goofier, dumber. They believe more stuff. So this is usually the type of art that happens. Corndog probably gets eliminated for being annoying immediately, or like in a couple of episodes. But then I leave Crayon alone, and then Crayon, who is relying on the advice and wisdom of the Corndog, then has to learn to grow, and then we have an individuality arc, and then they make it far, right? I'm thinking, for example, You know, OJ and WOW/Tuna from Object Invasion, something around that side, right? You take it in as a mentor, even though your mentor got eliminated before you, right? So you end up having like that individuality where like you grow outside of the shadows because the shadows gone, right? So you just have to. So I think Crayon makes it far. Corndor is eliminated early. That's my immediate prediction here. Corndor saw about the Tooth Fairy as the Tooth Fairy's real chat. Then we have the trophy. Very obsessed with personal space. Not gonna be letting anybody near that. Very classy, I guess, in the way that they speak. They're not a trophy. They're like a chalice, right? It's a chalice. Surely it's a chalice. I'm thinking trophy from my eye, but no, that looks like a chalice. Um, yeah, talks about personal space a lot. That's like the one thing that they do, but they seem a bit more classy, a little bit more relaxed. They seem like a character that's gonna do well. They seem like a character that's gonna do well because they're very no bullshit. You know, like they're very okay. We're gonna make it. You know, like they're gonna do their thing. They're not gonna be loud. They're not gonna be obnoxious, and they're not gonna necessarily go against the team that much. If the idea is obviously stupid, then yeah, maybe, and then it can cause some drama. However, on average, I think they get by just being kind of smart. Right? They're just smart. They understand stuff. They're more relaxed. They're more serious in a way than a lot of characters. So this guy immediately strikes me as a late game contender in a show. They feel like a part of a cast that makes it art because you always have that more relaxed, serious guy at the end of a cast. So I think that makes sense to me. Then we have the pink bow. Oh yeah, the pink bow, the blue bow tie. They're very sweet, a bit shy. They're outgoing but also shy at the same time. They're ended up going into try to make friends with some lonely people, so they go do that. But unfortunately, lonely people happen to be lonely for a reason. I don't know enough about them. I'm gonna be honest. This blue bow tie, I don't think I've earned enough information to them to make a prediction here. They maybe these early interactions strike me as too nice. You know, they're like that type of nice where they're gonna be taken advantage of and get eliminated in like episode 6 or something. You know, that type of character. It's like no, no, no. You can go. I get eliminated. Don't worry. You can go win the challenge. Right? It's like something like that. So not too confident about them. Then we've got uh the pot fella, the pot. We've got the pot fella that seems to be carrying around some type of piranha on them on the pot. Like that's the plant that has grown, and they're just super scared. Like no, don't get near me. They're just like super worried, lonely, sad, extremely scared, right? Because they are a man. Like you can't get near them, so otherwise the piranha might eat you, right? Because it's a hostile creature. So something along those lines is going on. And then it's like, okay, this character has potential. You know, this type of plot arc of there's something within you that you can't control, right? So it's like the plant directly correlates to them. So you can do plot arcs that are interesting, right? With them, it's like, oh no, what they do? So they're super scared, and then maybe eventually in a challenge or something gets chopped off, and it gets chopped off, and then it's super freeing, like, yeah, I made it, right? So there's the potential for an interesting plot arc there. So that's why I could see them making it out of that early game phase. I think the early boot, not this character, even though that they're gonna be lonely and sort of pessimistic, I think that they survive. And also, you know, this whole fella ends up having it has a little bit of an X factor, this piranha, you know, because they end up being kind of unique, right? It's a mechanic that nobody else has. So in challenges, that team's gonna have that X factor of maybe, just maybe, that piranha can come out in handy. So I think that they survived the early game phase. They'll probably not make it to the late game. I don't think they were gonna have enough personality for that, but that's my prediction on them. Then the next character we end up discussing is the fish, the bird tank, the bird bowl, the water fountain, which ends up helping them out and being like, yeah, you did a good thing. Yes, yes, you did a good thing. This character gives me vibes of early boot. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't seem like they're doing too much. Like they're caring, but we haven't seen them really do too many interactions, like with anybody in specific, which strikes me out as a potential issue. And look, somebody has to be the early boot. So far, I'm definitely feeling them because they're just not giving off many vibes here to start. And usually I feel like the top characters, you'd give them vibes out. Then we have Glue Fella. Glue is just kind of generic ego, like, yo, what's good? I'm gonna be you want to be broskies? Those characters do usually get out early because people are like, bro, what are you doing? And then they get overconfident, especially in this Purgatory challenge. I feel like this is an early boot. Just character that is loud, and you think that they might make it because they're loud, but no. Like, they're just overzealously confident, and that confidence kind of seeps in, which makes them eventually screw up at that challenge. Especially since, remember, we are not having a viewer elimination directly. The viewers just send the people down. However, one of them gets eliminated by the writers. So yeah, Glue is definitely screwing up the challenge the first time they get there. I'm not gonna lie. Then we have Cork. I really don't know anything about Cork. Cork was like hanging out with somebody else, if I'm not mistaken, right, earlier. But then with the fishbowl, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they were chit chatting. And they were doing stuff. Yeah, I mean, these characters definitely. I have to pull it on pause. Put it on pause. I don't know anything about them. They pretty much didn't speak. They seem to be a character that relies a bit on duo, like having that friend group type fella, So like they'll interact and be fun around a friend group, but they might not be comfortable around other people outside of that friend group. So maybe in a team picking challenge, right, in a team forming, then they can arrive, make a team with their friends, and then they can punch in and become an active character, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be an active character outside of their friend group, maybe, which would make them susceptible to possible early to middle game boot so far. But remember, I'm basing these predictions off like nothing. I'm basing these predictions off one interaction. Then we got like this one grape, which is the whole haha, I'm gonna dominate the world, but I'm too small, right? It does kind of. This is a thing that they do. It's kind of like Bowser in the Mario movie, in the credits of the Mario movie. They shrink Bowser down to Bowser, like, I'm gonna take over the world, but then it's like, you're 1 inch tall. What are you doing? So yeah, no, that character, it seems like a gag, seems like a joke character entirely. They're also giving Plankton vibe. Plankton's the same type of character. I'm gonna take over the world, but then they're like so small. Um, yeah, that's gotta be. It's gotta be. I don't see it, because yes, there is those type of minds. I think Gulpball, the type of character. But the thing is, those characters, they can impose a little bit of leadership. This fella cannot impose any leadership, or anybody's gonna listen. Nobody's gonna listen to them, which just means that they're eventually gonna go insane, cause some ruckus, get eliminated. They're the type of character that probably does survive a Purgatory challenge, though, by just kind of virtue of over trying, right? But they're probably gonna get down there rather often. I don't really know. Yeah, they're like exactly the type of character that gets second in the Purgatory challenge. They're that type of character that I feel like they would just stick there for like 3 episodes, just on the Purgatory. Like they don't ever get out because they're too smart for that, but they don't ever stay in because they're too physically incapable to actually get there. So that character, that's the vibe that I'm getting over there. Um, They've got Yoga Ball, which I must say is one of my favorite designs. That Yoga Ball looks very fun. They're very bouncy. They give in tennis ball vibes, but awkward, socially awkward. They're like, oh, come on, go talk to people. So then they talk kind of awkwardly, and it's like fun. But they seem like a character that's absolutely gonna connect. I think this character is gonna connect, gonna do good. It's that type of character where, yet again, you see the immediate arc, right? You see the immediate growth arc. They're gonna have friends now, and then they're gonna talk to the friends, and then they're gonna start becoming more confident, eventually doing better in challenges, and then they're gonna make it far, and then the viewers are gonna start to get to see the arc as well, and they're gonna start liking them, and it's gonna start being a fan favorite because they're gonna have friends and stuff, and they're gonna have ships. Like they're gonna like that type of character, right? It's gonna be, yes, that's the type of character that I see as a late gamer. I'm sensing Yoga Ball to the late game. They're a little bit like, the only thing that does maybe works against them is if they can trip, like they trip a lot. They're like they're the clumsy character. But the thing about the clumsy characters is that, yeah, it kind of feels like they'll do fine, to be honest. I think there's one. The clumsy characters usually, they don't get out immediately. They didn't make it. I think Yoga Ball gonna make it far. And then we have the character, the flamingo floaty, which ends up being they like to draw, and that's the end of what we know about them. but they're secretive about what they're drawing. Based on those two informations, I'm getting vibes of like middle game, right? Like they'll make it out of that early game stage, but then eventually they're kind of gonna be too secretive. Maybe they're gonna feel boring because they're too secretive, and then they get out. That's the type of character that I'm getting here. So I'm sensing middle game for the Flamingo Floaty. That's where I would put them right now. I think. And then we've got, okay, a couple of our characters. There's so many characters in the show. There's 1 million characters. Grass Block is the most first elimination character of all time. I'm sorry, if this guy doesn't get out immediately, if this guy doesn't get out immediately, I'm gonna actually be so concerned. He fumbles the bag like crazy. He's just annoying to everybody around them. He's like, there's no way. This guy's getting out like speed run levels of time. If there's any first boot style, I feel like this guy fits the bill of first boot character. You know, I'm feeling it. I'm just feeling that. I feel like this is a flop. You know, they're a joke character through and through. I don't see them really being that serious. This is gonna be that serious. Then there's Sunday, which seems to be. I mean, yeah, we don't really know anything about Sunday, nor Pawn really. They're the characters, nor the headphones. I like those three characters that Grassball tossed to. We don't really get to hear too much about them. Sunday seems to be pretty logical, so that could be something to work with. They seem to maybe not understand social situations, which is gonna possibly hinder them. But yeah, we're gonna need to see more. Pawn, dude, what did Pawn? Pawn just said what? Excuse me, I think. So, uh, yeah, I don't really know, but then it's just dipping. So I don't know anything about Pawn. Pawn is the I don't know. Okay, Pawn is the leave it till next time. And the cat headphones, of course, troll the grass ball because you think it's a girl, but no, it's actually a guy. I will say that it's interesting how bro just said sure. Hey, yo, do you want to be with me for sure? I find it that there wasn't repulse, but okay then. That character also strikes me as jokey, you know, like strikes me as that type of character that's kind of more for the gags. Like, really, how would I see cat headphones guy into the middle game? I feel like I wouldn't see him into the middle game. I mean, I might see him into the middle game if the voters just decide to, but I feel like they're gonna be kind of quiet. They're gonna kind of not do that much. They're gonna be the fuel for gags with other characters. Like, it's not the type of character that's gonna make it. That's gonna make the distance. You know, this doesn't give off that vibe. Then there's Broccoli. Broccoli is I don't, bro. So Broccoli, what was Broccoli? Broccoli's like, yo, I'm tacticking right now. Yeah, they were just talking about overthrowing the government. That character, that's the type of character that I consider fun, but usually it gets out like early to middle game. And then there's what the hell are you called? You're like a cosmopolitan role, right? No, that's a different thing. What it? I always call it cosmopolitan, but isn't that like like a drink, right? Like that's a thing, I think. A cosmo, no, yeah. What? It's like a bakery thing. I remember I got it confused immediately because there's like a character called Cosmo and Dandy's World, and I reviewed like 1 million Dandy's World object shows by now on accident. So so like, that ends up happening. But they are a character that feels like they're gonna be there. They're serious, methodical, and a bit meaner. But they're also more like for real. They censor straight. They might drop down into the Purgatory because of the classic people don't like mean characters. However, I think that they survive in Purgatory. I think that Purgatory feels like a survival range for this character. So I'm gonna predict that I'm gonna put them in my late game. Okay, it's gonna be a bit bold, but you gotta have somebody be mean in the late game. How many shows have had somebody be meaner? Like a mean character, you doesn't necessarily have to get eliminated. A lot of them do, but I feel like there's always one. No, imagine, think about it. Like there's always one. I'm gonna say that they make it. I'm gonna say that they make it far. Then we have a couple of other people. Oh my god, there's so many characters. Cooler. What did Cooler do? Oh yeah, Cooler's kind of judgy a little bit. Trying to act cool in a way, like yo, I'm fine. Like, please, they're acting overconfident and stuff. There's also, I don't even, ball? What are you? You're like a ball. Like an orb. I don't know what they are. Like a fucking Pokeball. But, so they seem to be analyzing everything from afar. They're another character that seems to be doing that. They're a type of character that's very tactical. I might put them in my late game entirely because of that. If they're tactical, you might make it far. However, but you might make it out. No, I'm gonna say they make it far because I said that the other one gets out middle game. So I'm saying one of them gets out middle game for exaggerating. They don't seem to exaggerate, so I'm gonna put them in the late game. And the cooler is middle, I think, because the cooler ends up being like that character that event. No, I don't know. What do we think about cooler? What do I think about this cooler? Come on, cooler. What am I thinking? Yeah, they're just kind of they're a bit confrontational. That's kind of the thing about them. They're a bit confrontational, and they're gonna get into drama. I feel like they're gonna get into drama, so I don't think they're gonna survive it. They're gonna get into drama immediately, nearly get eliminated, not quite, and then eventually they get eliminated like a bit later. That's my prediction. Then there's Sketch. Don't know anything about Sketch. You're probably in the way that you kind of don't speak. You're probably not getting out like immediately, but no, I'm getting vibes for early boot. This Sketch gives me early boot vibes. Like, it's a cool concept, but I feel like we're not gonna make it too far with this concept, It's gonna be kind of like, it's unique, yes, but it's not like that different. It's kind of like, okay, I see, but it's not, it's like it's a thing, it's a bit different. So I'm gonna say that they gave me early boot vibes, alright. Then who's left? Do I have anybody else that we're gonna talk about? No, we only really have, the last character, which is the one, the Biscuit. The Biscuit, who was just there, got hit by the truck and just kind of went along with it the entire ride, somehow not getting thrown off. And it's like, okay, I'm here now. So they're competing. They could make, okay, they give off that type of character that acts super unserious and cool. Like, yo, no, I don't know. Yep, I'm me, and that's all I am. Not me, that's all I am. I got nothing weird going on about it. Just pure chilling, pure vibes, pure. And then eventually they end up like going up, bam, super backstory, right? And then that's the type of character. So they're either the type of character that gets eliminated immediately because they're not interesting, right? Or they're the character that makes it really far because they're holding a facade. Ooh. Or they're either holding a facade or there's just something more to them that we haven't seen, right? Like, basically, the surface level gets out, and then there's a deeper layer that gets them super far. Do I think Biscuit's going to have the super layer? My prediction is yes. So I'm going to put them in my late game. Okay, so that is the characters who I think makes it to the late game, who I think makes it to the middle game, who I think is going to be early boots. That's my predictions, all right? However, yeah, that's that. We end up having our cool castle. I like how everybody just judges button. But then, yeah, before we can really see too much of the game itself, we end up having them dropping that into Purgatory. It'll be interesting to see how this is going to work, because apparently one person starts in Purgatory, right? But there's always 3 teams of 6, which means that there is a theoretical chance that 1B has a Purgatory challenge, where the loser of that challenge goes into Purgatory, and then we have team forming. But like, all that in 1B would be a bit complicated. So I'm not exactly sure how they're going to approach this indeed, but maybe, I don't know. No idea. I have no idea. Because like, it's a lot of challenges. Like, the best way to split up the show is by just adding more challenges. And you can do that in a reality show. In an object show, it's just going to take the animation time to 1 quadrillion, right? Like, I don't know. Because like, are we going to have a Purgatory challenge that sends 1 person to Purgatory, and then we have team forming, and then a challenge, and then voting, so that we can have in the next episode the Purgatory challenge with a person and the other 2 that got voted off, and then like, see how there's so much stuff that this show has to do to make its own format work? Like, that's kind of the problem with it. It's a cool format. I enjoy this format. It's very reality show-esque. It feels like it would be good, however, like, again, it's going to be difficult to make. It's going to be difficult to make, and I wish them all the best of luck. I talked about Purgatory for way too long. Let's go to the next thing that we're going to be talking about. Whew. I don't know why I broke into song. Sometimes you just do that. That arrives with the package of Eternal the Second. All right, let's go. The next object show that we're going to be taking a look at is titled Insane Object Brawl. So Insane Object Brawl was created by RoboAnimator716. He is a fellow YouTube creator with 1,000 subscribers. This is their show, Insane Object Brawl, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a sort of reimagining, reboot of an old show that was made about 5 to 4 years ago, titled IOB, or now titled IOB Classic. All right. However, as far as I'm aware, this isn't a sequel, it's a reboot, which means that I don't think I'm gonna watch the previous one because it's not listed as being a thing that we gotta do. Um, Either way, Insane Object Brawl already has like 4 times the views than any IOB Classic episode did. So either way, I think I'm gonna get the average viewing experience of anybody who is to be watching the show, which is they watch Insane Object Brawl before watching any of the IOB Classics, if they are a thing. So yeah, we're gonna watch it and we're gonna talk about it. The episode is titled Bombs Away. Let's go. Alright, so I have just watched the first episode of Insane Object Brawl. And what an interesting little show that this is. I'm not gonna lie, this thing really piqued my attention because it has this vibe. It just got this general vibe running through every character. And it's like, how's the best way that I can describe this? This show, alright, in a very weird way, okay? Is cute. I don't know if this is a comment that makes any sense, but like that's how this show is. The way that it's animated with like the facial expressions being very expressive, and the way that the characters kind of have this pause before the other one speaks, and so many of them are just like that teensy little bit of awkward, right? And then like it just creates this like cute environment. Like seeing these characters interact is just like cute to see. That is like the best word that I can use to describe this show, because it is truly very, very interesting. And yeah, like they're mostly kind of quiet. Like there's not really a big meanie in the cast, right? Like there's even the mean characters don't feel that mean. So it's like it ends up being this sort of community overall, like a relatively relaxed, chill, awkward, cute little cast that's animated excellently, and it's an adorable little thing to watch. Absolutely. So we get introduced to our cast as they're all chilling in, like, I guess, the grasslands. For some reason, they happen to live here. We know that there is a city over there, but that city isn't the city that we're doing. But then eventually we end up having a couple of people end up having a gold medal that's just, super hard working and eventually achieves things, mainly known for being super fast at running. I guess that makes sense, Olympics and gold medals, and then the most famous Olympic sport is athletics, right? So that's fair. We get to see a couple of friendships, like Glue and the Bowtie. They're having their friendos in a way, with Glue, but Bowtie is just getting tired. We end up seeing there's a global thematic that's running around a lot of these characters, and it's that they're bored. Whatever it is, whatever situation they're in, they're just kind of bored. They're not that interested in what they've been doing. Right, it's been a while. They're repeating the same routine, and they are kind of bored in this empty landscape where there's not that much to do, and it ends up being a bit more complicated. We end up also seeing the next character dynamic, the baby bottle, which is running away from, which for some reason is scared of talking to people, so they end up just running away. They're like a baby, and then Milk, that's sort of this, they're a caretaker. I'm not exactly sure if this is like a literal guardian relationship. Like, is Milk the guardian of the baby bottle? I mean, the baby bottle presumably contains milk, right? So like in the sense, so like, in that way it makes sense, right? That would be what happens. However, we're not 100% sure, but I think that's the dynamic that you want to pick up, right? That, like, okay, yeah, this is the guardian figure. So yeah, okay, that's all good. We also get to see Compass. Compass, I didn't even know Compass has a second frame in this show. I'm not gonna lie. Like so far, the only frame is just they've been looking at their phone. They are addicted to social media. Same. No. But like they're looking at their phone. They're not doing anything, and the baby bot eventually runs away from them. Then we have Gear, which we don't really get to see much of Gear because they only ended up getting bullied around by the trio, the meanie trio. I'm gonna call them the meanie trio because they're not mean enough to actually earn the word mean as like a word. They're just kind of three people that are mildly ruder than the rest. You can tell because they have spiky teeth. You see, that's the way that we're designing these characters. It's just spiky teeth. Like you have a spiky tooth that makes you meaner. That makes you meanie. Like I'm telling you, this show's adorable. So then like yeah, there's Grenade, a Red Light, and eventually Anvil. Anvil is very bored, but they just like don't even they don't even move. I don't know if I've seen Anvil walk. I mean, I guess they're really heavy. You know, and Anvil's really heavy. As far as items are concerned, that would be like the heaviest one of them all. So maybe walking is just like a tiring experience. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, but I think that'd be an interesting thing if they did it. Then ice cream and bubblegum, they're no, but sorry. What do you call bubblegum? No, you're not a bubblegum. You're what the hell was it called? Fuck, I don't remember. Well, I'm gonna call it bubblegum. So they're also another friendship, but eventually Bubblegum ends up being very prone to dying. So, yeah. And then we end up having Neon. So Neon ends up talking about, ends up being sort of the recovery person. So apparently there is a recovery center in the city. Okay, so there's a city which exists. For some reason, for some way, these guys are not in the city. They live in the grasslands. Now, they don't have houses, it seems, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen them have houses. They've just been chilling. I haven't seen a house in these lands. So they've just been there. And that makes me wonder. I mean, I just gotta wonder, why the hell are you here? No, there's nothing there. There's no house. You don't live anywhere. You're homeless, I guess. What are you doing? And then there's a city. Why are you? Were you banned from the city? What did you do? No, you can go to the city. You've just chosen not to. I mean, I want to know, right? What has made this set of people go to the barrenness of nothing rather than living in a city? You know, like it's not like they're doing anything interesting in the grasslands. They're literally all bored. Every single one of them is bored. Why do they not go to the city? This is knowledge that we gotta have. Like, we can't just be like, oh yeah, there's a city over there. Why are you there? Len, like, there's some shortest entertaining things to do in the city. Were you banned? Are you an outcast? Were you like, are you a criminal? What did this group of people do? This is something I really want to know. That I absolutely want to know. I really hope that one other episode we get a little bit of a knowledge, because that feels like a big deal. It's like, hold on, everybody's in the city except you guys. What the hell are you guys? So, but yeah, Neon being this sort of more powerful entity, I guess. I don't really know what they are. They're just an entity. They have to fly out to the city to recover them, whoever's dead in their landscape at all times. There's also a little helmet, a camouflage helmet, which is, I guess sort of older about war. Then there is the sort of Charger plug fella. Charger. I'm going to call him Charger. They're just very relaxing. And then the host appears. Magnifying glass. They are the cutest hosts of all time as far as how they act. I've never seen a nicer host in history. Shout out to nice hosts. I love nice hosts. They're the best. I love hosts that are nice and don't necessarily immediately overwhelm with power. I always love it when that happens. Like, because... Well, I like me a crazy host as well from time to time. And that's like the norm, right? So like having a host that like isn't like, they do have extra powers, we know about that. But like they're not necessarily displaying it. They act as equal, right? They're kind of different. They are more powerful, but they're not necessarily more powerful like right off the bat, right? They're not using their powerfulness to directly interact, right? It's kind of like with 4, for example, right? When you ask 4, like, hey, why should I join your show? 4 is like, you are going to die if you don't show my show, right? But like, Manifying as so you know, I'm gonna do a little show for you. So like, you see, like, it's something interesting. So I love him. I love this fella. They end up going like, "Yo, can I post a show?" I will say I'm not gonna lie, this is a stylistic thing. I'm sure there's another show that does this. I've actually never seen like feet draw that way. Like when this, like, as far as the shows I've seen so far, these little like triangle foots, I've actually not seen it personally done in another show. I'm sure it exists somewhere else because it seems like a stylistic thing that would happen. But I've not actually currently seen it in another show as far as I remember. So yeah. Um, okay. Then we have ourselves some other characters. I guess a candy. No, you're not candy corn. What are you called? Fuck. You're the thing that people eat. The pink thing that people eat that's super hollow that I don't remember the name. Ah. I don't remember. Fuck. Whatever. I'm bad. I'm really bad at remembering the names of things from just looking at them. And then there's Crowny, that's apparently annoying, but they seem very excited about the idea of a show, unlike a lot of the other people who have been more relaxed. They're sort of debating, yo, shall we do a show? But then they're like, yo, we have been like extremely bored, so I mean, maybe this show is not gonna be that interesting, but it's gonna be. And I gotta agree with them. I agree with the cast here. I mean, like, yes, that is the correct way to approach it, I think, in my opinion. Like, okay, I'm bored, there's nothing to do. For some reason, you can't go to the city. That's not an option. You have to live here in the grassland where there's nothing to do. So then it's like, okay. Then, yeah, so competition show arrives. Let's sign me up. I mean, it's something to do, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, object shows are usually pretty repetitive, and I'm not sure if this one's going to be more repetitive than the ones that they have over there in their lands. But like, I mean, have they participated in them before? It's only repetitive for the second time. Like, it can be repetitive the first time, right? That somebody does the thing. It's kind of like, for example, oh, yo, it's Survivor season 39 or whatever it is, right? Okay, it might be repetitive for a viewer, right, who's watching it, but at the end of the day, every person, that's their first Survivor experience, right? So it's not going to be repetitive to them. Basically, that's the type of thing how shows work. So yeah, so they end up all joining. I don't know if they had a choice, to be honest. The Manifanga says that they don't, but I don't really know what would have happened if anybody actually said no. Either way, they end up agreeing eventually. So yeah, then we end up having the challenge, which is to fucking throw bombs after an intro, which is a cute little intro. People appear from the left and right, except I think Neon, which appears from the top, of course. And then we have ourselves just third challenges. Everybody will get recovered, so like, yo, come on, you'll get recovered. Then we have our challenge is to throw bombs. I'm gonna say this, all right? I will say that this challenge doesn't really work. I mean, like, it's okay, as a challenge, it makes sense, but it's such a chaos-fueled challenge, right? Right, like a challenge of, oh, throw bombs, run away. The bomb's on a time. Every bomb is on a timer, right? Gonna explode. You're gonna need to throw, dodge, land, escape, hide, right? Like it's all like it's a really exciting style of chaos challenge, in theory, right? However, the thing about it is that you were giving this challenge to the most relaxed cast of contestants I think I have seen ever. Just like in general, I don't think I've seen more relaxed cast. Like most of them are just like, yeah, okay, that's yep, sure. Like there's no, like, the amount of energy flowing through isn't that high. So most of them are just kind of standing still. I mean, like, hey, do we throw a bomb, right? So like there isn't enough action going on, and it does suffer, I think, a little bit from the writing flaw of like, okay, so for example, the freaking code. Yes, I called him Code Red because that's the name of the show with the alarm as a host as an intro in the famous intro. So like the alarm bell ends up like grabbing a bomb, be like, I'm gonna go, okay, and we don't get to see them with that bomb for an additional like 4 minutes or something until they have suddenly they're chasing someone, right? And then it's like, hold on, how is that bomb active for 4 minutes? What was going on? What were you doing that entire time? All right, like it suffers that issue a little bit where like from when it's a challenge like this, a chaos challenge where things are happening at the same time, it's sort of got this narrative little flaw in it of the fact that it's a challenge where things are supposed to be happening at the same time, but at the same time we have like we're seeing person by person, which means that there's like this weird where like if you're truly thinking about okay, what was the timeline of this person's events, there's always a gap where there's just a question mark. You don't know what's happening. It's like alarm picked up a bomb, then question mark, and then chasing someone with a bomb. You see, we don't know what happened in the middle and why it took so long, right? So then it ends up feeling a little bit weird, right? Like this is important because like it makes time feel like it's not passing when it is, right? Which makes everything feel slower as a result of the challenge, basically. All right. Um, in the meanwhile, we yeah, I have a couple of people progress. Like, dude, it's so funny. This is supposed to be like a big competition, and all the characters are just going like, "Yo, can I blow you up?" Yeah, sure. I don't mind. I mean, look, if you're Mr. Magnifying Glass guy, okay, it's not looking good for the TV ratings over in the city. I'm sure the city have seen bigger drama shows than this one. I'm gonna be honest, but yeah, that is crazy. Then eventually the one big debate that we have. Okay, so the baby bottle ends up getting chased around by the grenade, which ends up getting the baby bottle, but then Milk is like, "Rah!" Roughly. I mean, I remember this show has the most show contestants, so it's more like, "Rah." It's more relaxed. I toned down by 70%. But then Milk's like, I'm gonna kill you, or what? But you know, a nicer, I'm gonna kill you. So then they end up chasing of a grenade around while doing that. We end up having Compass explode. They don't care. Neon it technically explodes by going out of bounds. I'd like to point it out. That's probably easier than throwing a bomb because that is the other way to do a challenge is to throw people out of bounds. And I mean we've seen how these throws can be. Like you know we saw how Grenade managed to throw the gear into like the stratosphere. Like it's probably and the walls are so not big that it's honestly probably a valid strategy that nobody attempts. Nobody attempts a strategy, but it's probably a valid strategy to have just literally not ignored the bombs and just tried to literally physically throw people, you know, outside of the boundaries and then they're out. That just feels like the correct thing to do, you know. It would have been it would have been theoretically a valid strategy, I think. I mean, I'm not sure, but if it would have worked, because I don't like the arena seemed pretty large, but it didn't seem like extremely large, you know. So, anyways, yeah, Neon eventually leaves. Then we have like you see what happens. It's like Charger and Alarm are running away. Like Charger's like, I'm running away, and then Alarm gets distracted by somebody exploding or whatever, and then Charger just sits there. What are you doing? And I understand why. It's because like you know things are happening one event at a time. So it's like there is the chase, then Alarm sees a thing, but then we're supposed to continue the chase, but you can't. But for some reason, the thing that distracts Alarm has to, for some reason, distract Charger at the same time, even though Charger wouldn't really care about it and should just run away. So you see, it's this weird thing where it's like, hold on, time it has passed because Alarm stopped the 7. That means the Charger, you had time to run the fuck away, but you don't run away. Because that's just not what we're doing out here. Like it's just kind of weird, you know. It's just kind of weird in the way that the show ends up being timed, I guess, with a challenge like this. So that's why I would probably recommend it. A less action direct challenge where like people are attacking each other from all angles. Because again, the biggest power that this show has is being chill. So like I think honestly, they embrace it. Make a chill show. It's Insane Object Brawl, but like that's just clickbait that magnifying glass event. It doesn't have to actually be insane or a brawl, right? So I'd embrace the chillness vibes that this show gives out because there's truly so much of them in it. It's pretty special. Gold medal. I don't. Gold medal just gets eviscerated. I can't tell you how. I you like, oh yeah, because it's like an acid drop, so I guess it literally melts from the acid. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's a powerful acid drop. But then eventually Milk ends up getting, no, ends up just kind of chasing Grenade around until eventually Grenade gets launched away. And technically they are a bomb, so the Grenade gets activated, lands next to the camouflage, they explode, and everybody else is around. And then Fire Flame and the acid drop have an idea. Yo, if we both win, then we won't be together, and then that's a problem. So then it's like, okay, let's get ourselves out. No, wait, bro, don't get both out. You're fucking up again. Wait, you're supposed to, like, you understood a problem, a very valid like thing. Like, okay, we want to stay together, so one of us has to win the challenge and the other one doesn't. But then you can't just both not win the challenge. Why did you both leave? What? Like, then you have the problem again. You might not be together. It's the king captain. Just pick the people in repeating order. Like, yo, Fire Flame in this team has to drop on the other. But that means that you won't be together. So that means that one of you has to win. That way they pick the other, and then there's a 100% chance. But then they both left. They did like 50% of the calculation and then forgot that the way that they did it. So now they were like, yo, if we both win, we'll have a 0% chance of being together. But that instead of trying to do the option that gives them a 100% chance of being together, they picked the option that gives them a 50-50 chance of being together. It's not great. It wasn't a big brain move from them, I must say. But yeah, then magnifying glasses saying that it's anticlimactic because I guess it is. And then this is when we discover magnifying glasses' powers. They, using their arm, managed to recover everybody who died. And they don't want to say how they did that. I mean, we don't know how they did that, but, you know, they seem to be a little bit of a powerful entity. Their arm hurts, which is interesting. But, I mean, I don't know. But oh yeah, but I love the pose that happens in the outro, in the post-credit scene. The pose that this magnifying glass gives out. Yes, love that pose. I do that pose all the time. I ain't gonna lie. See me on a wall? I'm doing that pose. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I just feel like that city's important. I'm just getting vibes out of that city. You know, that city just feels like, nothing, something wrong. You know, like that city is something. And like that guy feels like they're coming in from the city. The city feels technologically advanced. I might be borrowing some ideas from MBM, because MBM is another show that has the same thing. They're all in the grasslands because of a thing, and then there's the city that's technologically advanced, right? But it's like this show feels like the city is important because directly this guy wants to make money, presumably from people in the city watching the show that this guy is putting on. Therefore, that means that this guy probably is from the city himself as well, and the city might have inventions, and therefore he might have certain powers deriving from the city, right? Something like that. Are all inside, because you know that the city invented a recovery machine, which means that the city, you know, could maybe invent somebody, some robot guy, glass magnifying, that also has recovery powers, you know, and maybe he can build a recovery machine. He seems to know how to do that apparently, because he's suggesting the act of doing it, which implies that, you know, they will. So okay, that's all fair. That's just what I think. I think that city is important. Again, might be biased because I recently, of course, watched a show where a city is really important, but this show gave me vibe that a city is important. You know, they're just the vibes I'm getting out here, being like, yup, this makes sense. So, yeah, all right. For me, well, that's all I think I really got to say about Insane Object Brawl. Very cute show. Just these characters are cute. The way they interact is cute. The animation style is adorable. The VAs are good at their job. And yeah, keep it up. I'll be excited when another episode drops. All right, I'll be excited. I'll be thrilled. So yeah. All right. Let's go to the next thing that we're taking a look at in today's programming. All right, so there's a couple of things that we have to keep up with. The first one that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be AJSMB 78C. Indeed, a joke show made by 78 Card, which has had its episode 4 release yesterday, titled XY. Just as a reminder, last time we had episode 3, where, if I'm not mistaken, we had, every debutante showing all, like, 26 of them. It was a mountain ton, like, just a pile. I have no idea who's gonna be making it, to be honest, but I guess we will have to find out. I've not got much else to say. It's a short video, of course. It's 1 minute. Let's jump into it. All right, so I have just watched the AJSMB 78C4XY title moment. So we end up having the show that's gonna be, it's a show, but then XY appears. OMG, it's the hit character that is 2 letters apparently, and they are they might be an algebra brilliant. They seem to. Presumably, yeah, in just the way that they're designed to give off heavy algebraian vibes. So they end up I'm going to take your contestants. I guess they saw 2 in BFB and they're like, yep, I'm going to do that. So they take bracket. Everybody who got a vote for the debuts. So apparently it was Candy, this T fella, Gingerbread Man, Dot, then with Air, Air, Cookbook, I remember Air, and then freaking a Waffle, and then 5 other people at random as well. For 4 of them are from the debut, whether it's Ladder, I think that's like the bisexual cup. Sorry, I don't remember the flags. The sock, the dirty sock, and then the cape as well. So those are gonna be for the show. XY does, because it's for their own good. Ooh, is it? In a way, it's like, to be fair, in the grand scheme of object show hosts, right? This shapy fella was like surprisingly okay, like this guy was not that evil. This guy was chill almost, like relatively relaxed. But nah, we proper eviling out here. That's crazy. So yeah, fair enough, I guess. But then the last 2 people, like, I love how there's just 2 people left. Like, this guy's like, I'm gonna take some of your contestants. Proceeds to take all of them. What? XY is looking like a worse host than Shapey. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not too confident on XY right now. They look kind of evil spotted. But yeah, Squiggly Guy and Controller are the last 2. I feel like Squiggly Guy's probably gonna win. I don't know why. I feel like they represent the show a little bit better. Especially because, what the hell was Controller's victory speech? Thank you for letting me be in the final 2. Don't thank us. We didn't do shit. Thank XY for not robbing you. Like, what? Okay. Like, freaking XY robbing the entire cast of the show. Is that, bro? That's crazy. But, alright then. So they're gonna go off to do another show, I guess, which we might see. I guess I'll keep an eye out on it. I'm not sure when those are gonna be releasing, but yeah, we have got multiple episodes here, which is pretty interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Look, it's interesting. We'll find out how XY is gonna be hosting a competition. They look kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. They look kind of insane style hosts. But we're gonna have to see. But we'll probably see who wins. AJ. SMB78C probably before. My prediction is Squiggly Guy, but I guess we'll see. Next. All right, then when it comes to keep ups, I think we have one last thing that we're gonna be doing here for today, which is gonna be Magnificent Madness 2. So Magnificent Madness 2, last time we checked up on it, had its episode 2A release, which it was titled Unlimited Limbs. Basically, the contestants were sent off to a forest to compete, and then eventually we had an eldritch being, which is apparently A's pet, which was brutally murdering everybody. It was giving heavy animatic battle 2 vibes, but yeah, they were just trying to running for their lives. I don't exactly remember who died. It was a lot. It was a lot of people though. And yeah, let's discover who survives, who makes it out alive in episode 2B, which has a good thumbnail, Before and Afterlife. Let's go. Okay, so I just watched episode 2B of Magnificent Madness 2. So, here we have a little bit of an episode. So if you remember, there's a bunch of teams in the forest. They're doing shit. But they're running away and stuff. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not 100% sure what was going on for like majority of this episode. Cause like, what did we do? We ended up getting a bunch of people ran away. This Fred drank for some reason, and then Opal just sent everybody away because they were mad. Bowling Ball eventually gets it, and then I don't know, the evil eldritch being that murdered about 6 people in 30 seconds ended up taking a massive chill pill for the first couple of minutes. Then we got to see the afterlife where I don't know, it's just a landscape where they've been chilling. And then they're running, and I guess they're just chilling over there before they get recovered. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. Afterlife look kind of chill though. Afterlife look kind of relaxing over there. I mean, I wouldn't mind if I were you. I mean, like seems like a pretty relaxed environment. So they're adventuring. Then eventually, Teabag ends up dropping down. Now, is Teabag the one who sacrificed themselves? Right? Is that what happened? Is that the character that happened? Like that's the thing. Because I'm super sorry. I didn't check up too much on Magnificent Madness before. Like I don't quite remember, But I think it was that. Surely, right? Was it? Damn it, I'm not bad at this shit. Come on. I'm checking live if that was what it was. Um, yeah, they inputted the bomb. Because it was like, I'm gonna explode everything and then we're gonna be safe. So then they die because they don't get the recovery center because they can't recover anybody while they're in that state. So then they're the ones who are dead. So they're the ones who hopped on because they were in the afterlife. But then, so they were trying to cling on, no, bring me with you. But then eventually, no, they got absolutely bozoed out of there. By joystick. So, all right then. Then the Eldritch monster realized, oh shit, I'm supposed to be murdering people. They murder about like 7 people in the span of 12 seconds. And then eventually the team of Nuclear Bomb and Kern end up being the 2 teams safe. Or Fred isn't, which means that the team with Dicey, the rainbow fella, the glow stick, the joystick, the USB, and the starry fella are up for elimination. This is going to be a very interesting elimination. Why? Because like nearly everybody in this elimination was already dead on 2A, which means that like we're pretty much, they didn't do much. They flew around, I guess, but didn't really do that much. My prediction is Joystick probably gets eliminated because they were mean to the Teabag character and it's like, come on, bro, they're there forever. Like, but you at least be nice to them when you're visiting, But so my prediction is that they're probably gonna get out. But yeah, I mean, as far as the 2B goes, it's all right. It's a little bit fault on me for not remembering the teams too much, right? Like, unfortunately, this kid, I don't remember them too well. But like in general, it was that, it was so I'll give it 7. Apparently next episode's in January, as we said, so good luck making it, because apparently Silly Saturday's contest was also cancelled, I heard, which it's rather unfortunate because that show is pretty interesting. But hey, if you want to put more focus in doing something like this or a different show that's higher effort, sure, go for it, absolutely. And yeah, That's all for Magnificent Madness 2 Episode 2B. Next. The next show that we're going to be taking a look at is titled Object for Dream Island. So Object for Dream Island is created by Mason or Mason-like Stuff, which is a fellow creator that has seen the videos before of Catchup, has been around for quite a couple of weeks since I originally discovered that they were watching it. And a couple of days ago, as I guess a recommendation, they just commented the name of their show. Like no other information, it was just the name. So I think that is a recommendation. I'm gonna treat it as one. Either way, this was a show on the list of things that I should watch. I wasn't quite gonna get to it yet, but the comment has pushed me over the edge. So we're gonna be watching Object for Dream Island, all right? Episode 1, which is titled "Whoa, it's a new show." So let's watch it. Let's talk about it. All that stuff. Alright, so I just watched Object for Dream Island episode 1, currently the only episode of the series. So let's talk about it. So, of course, I'm gonna preface this by saying this is a show with no voice acting. A show with no voice acting, entirely text on the screen. We haven't actually had one of those in the catch-up for a while, as far as I'm aware. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, the last show that was pure text that we saw on the catch up was Hotel Object Mouse's series from honestly quite a while ago now, to be honest. However, there is this general note that I'm gonna give on a show like this, right? Which Hotel Object mostly kind of fixed, but this show I don't think quite solves. It's that watching a show that doesn't speak to you, like you have to read out what the characters are saying, right? It is a much more like taxing experience than usual, right? Because you need to give the show like a lot of attention, like you need to give it brain power. Because especially if you think about it, watching the show in a way becomes there's a time limit for the text on screen. Like you have to pay attention, focus on the line that's being said, and read it before it disappears, right? So it's directly, in a way, it's a battle, right? So this show does okay with it. However, it does increase it by doing this little thing where basically how the text works is the text is above each character, right? However, the thing about it is that the characters are just in different spots, which means that to read the text that is happening on screen, you need to just kind of glance around like everywhere, right? Like a character is tiny, the text will be lower. If the character is tall, the text will be higher, right? And all that stuff. And it with Hotel Object, at least as the example, like you can see how pretty much everyone is the text is nearly always at the top, regardless of who is really speaking, and I think that helps because that gives on that clear image, right? Like the thing about subtitles, for example, subtitles are easy to read because they're just always in the same spot, so you know when somebody's speaking, you know where to look. And same thing. In my opinion, it's better. I understand why it's done in this way. I'm not going to complain too much about it, but I think it is better if the text was all in one spot. However, okay. Where are we saying? Then also, it some text is a bit too fast scrolling as well. It's kind of like you're gonna need to, for like 2 or 3 lines, you're definitely gonna need to pause. There's just no way you can read it in time, because you just don't expect the large text and then it disappears too fast. But it happens, it's just the way that it is. But anyways, let's actually talk about the show. So everybody's on the Gmod map. I don't remember what the Gmod map is called. I'm very sorry, but it's that one default map, the popular one that's like the default. We first get introduced to our cast that they're just chilling. We have a goofy little guy, a goofy little sponge guy. We have a googly eye that doesn't speak. We have Sam, which is pretty lonely, but plays around with some people. We've got the Yo and which is a yo-yo, and then the teapot, like a two pot. It's a teapot with 2 on it, so it's a 2-pot. Ends up they're a buddy, they're a duo. Then we've got Waffles and Pancake. Pancake and Waffles, like, as one character, which, you know I love me some characters that are 2 characters. So absolutely, I am a fan of this. I hope that they make it far. They have a very interesting relation going on, because, like, it's a very collaborative. We have quieter Waffles and then a bit of a more outgoing Pancake. However, the Pancakes don't, like, dictate what's going on. Pancakes very much so, all right, let's do something. What do you want to do? And then the Waffles respond like, okay. You know, like, the Pancake gives the responsibility. They're more outspoken, but they give the responsibility, which I think makes an interesting dynamic between those 2 characters. I'm not even gonna lie. But yeah, then we have the computer chip, which is the smart one. You have the pleasant gradient. One thing I will commend the subtitles for, because I really enjoy it, is that we've got the characters that are multicolor have their subtitles be multicolor. So the pleasant gradient starts with the blue, heading into the purple. The text itself isn't on a gradient, which it would have been cool, but yeah, or like the law character that's about to show up also speaks in that same system of, like, depending the size of the text are split up into the 3 law colors, which is quite nice. I'm probably not going to mention every character, but we got a couple of people. Doomsday Clock, which is extremely dangerous and needs to be stopped immediately. But Doorknob Junior, which for some reason they're junior, I don't know whose Doorknob primary is, but yeah, ends up somehow just jailing them. Hey, we're in Gmod, maybe we can just spawn that in. We've got Pencil and the Paper, which are also a duo. Geary, which gets kind of bullied around. We have the Fish Fella, which always just pops into the screen, says some snarky remark, and then leaves again. We got a Yellow Tomato, which they find a box with Ruby. So this box has 3 squares in it, and they're like, what the hell are these squares? And they think, well, it's nothing. But then they say, oh, the box says open with caution. That means that this stuff is important in some way, right? Like, it's fragile, or it is something. It's not just dust. Which, you know, I'm gonna say that's logical reasoning. I enjoy that reasoning. I think that's pretty good. So I think that's a nice way. So they're like, okay. So they ask a couple of random people. Then they're like, okay, let's ask the smartest guy that we know around here, which is Computer Chip. You see, this too, for once, when we are met with mystery thing, they actually proceed to logically do steps to try to figure out what it is, right? Like, they find a thing, they don't know what it is, they figure out why it would be important, they ask around, they figure out who to ask it to, and then, so, like, that all makes sense, right? Computer Chip knows what the things are and that you can combine them, but they don't know what happens when you combine them. So they just know what it is. But then they show how to combine them despite not knowing what it does. And it turns out that what it does is it transforms into life. As you do. So we end up having a fella. Oh yeah, the host also, by the way, is a character that speaks with their subtitles in multicolor, which I think is fun. So they are called BFDI Alt 4. BFDI Alt 4. Which, is that a thing? Is that a thing? BFDI Alt 4? I gotta search this up because I don't really know. No, is it? It's not a thing. Because I know that, of course, they have stuff like BFB Alt, which is, you know, an alternate, a show made that's like alternate dimension. But I don't think BFDI.alt 4 is a thing. So this is just a character. All right, cool. And they're going to host a competition because, I don't know, they've got nothing better to do. So they have this. So they have the island that Leafy sold to them. So in their timeline, I guess they are the host of BFDI. Like, they host BFDI, and then BFDI happens the same way. So now they just have the island that Leafy sold to them, which is interesting. We have the text here. Another thing I'm going to say about this text is in the elimination challenges, it just so happens that the background is gray and the text is black. Uh-oh, that's not great. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. I'm not going to lie. I would, this is a thing Hotel Object does as well, but and of course you don't necessarily got to do it, but I will recommend the idea of potentially putting windows or like some sort of background to the actual text itself, right? So that way regardless of what the actual background is supposed to be, the text has its own background, which means it will always be readable in every situation, right? And there's not going to be a thing where like a character that speaks in yellow is going to have the background be yellow and then we can't read any of what they're saying, right? Like that's why it's useful to sometimes have the text have a background, like a window pane, behind the text. That's always useful to have. Anyways, we end up forming 3 teams of 7, which I'm not gonna lie, uh, I misunderstood originally. Wait, did I misunderstand it? Hold on, I don't remember if I misunderstood it, because I saw they mentioned the team making twice, I think. Oh yeah, eventually they end up joining. We end up having an intro. It's a pretty solid intro. No, they do say it wrong. Okay, I wasn't going crazy because I didn't notice what they said originally about the 3 teams of 7. I didn't quite catch that part. And then later they said form 7 teams of 3. That's just an error in the writing. I was like, hold on a minute, 7 teams of 3 now. But no, it's 3 teams of 7, and you realize pretty quickly that it's 3 teams of 7. But yeah, that's a minor mistake. Whatever, it's just a swap of the numbers. Sponge ends up forming a team with Geary. The Pleasant Gradient, which is a meditating character. Like that character, they look cool. It is indeed a very pleasant gradient, and they are, they give me Candle vibes, meditating, and Candle, one of my favorite characters. So I am a fan of that. They join the Computer Gear. Ends up having the idea of getting on their team the friggin' Doomsday Clock. Because if they're on the other team, it would be more dangerous. Maybe, however, I'm going to disagree with Computer Chip on this one. You want to know why? Because if you get, yes, I understand. If Doomsday Clock would be to attack you from the other team, that would be bad. However, if Doomsday Clock, the thing about Doomsday Clock is that they're just dangerous to be in the vicinity of them. When we saw what happens, Doomsday Clock touched the person, they died. They not alive. Which means that, like, they're actively a danger to be around, and when you bring them on their team, they will be around you all of the time, which means that you might touch them and it might cause problem. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm not 100% confident about that, but okay then. Eventually, they have the teams. First team is called Underwater Out of the Underwater, which apparently stands for Five Nights at Gisby Part 5 Bradley Meets Gisby Remaster 2016. Don't think that's one underwater without the underwater part. That's incorrect. What? Huh? Underwater, if you take underwater out of the underwaters, you get this. You don't get Five Nights at Gisby's Part 5 Bradley Meets Gisby Remaster 2016, but okay. Then the other team ends up being called Object because the fella decided to. Sure, I mean it's a name. It's a pretty solid name. And then Doorknob Jr. ends up choosing Dash of Blue. That is a good name. I like that name. I'm a fan of blue. There's an actual reason. The character, the gradient is blue. That's like sort of the team leader. There's a lot of blue going on. It's just kind of a cool sounding name as well. Big fan of that team. And Doorknob Jr. might be the GOAT. I'm not even going to lie. They have just done everything correctly all of the time. So, yeah, to be honest, they're cool. Then the challenge is to get on to the top of the tower of the Gmod Tower, the fabled one. The teams do it hilariously quickly. Object fella, Tupac ends up deciding to just lasso everybody onto the yo-yo and then launch them up immediately. That's good. That's fair. That's all fast. That's all good. That's all correct. And in the meanwhile, the other team ends up making it up because Sam just built a ladder because you could do that. Apparently. I mean, of course, I would question how did you get this supplies? But the thing is, we're in the Gmod world. You know? Like you the setting of your show is Gmod. The area where you can literally spawn in anything you want at any time. Right? So like the fact that this guy just got a ladder now, I mean, like, it'd be shocking in any other object show. But we're talking about Gmod. You can spawn in monsters if you want, like it's interesting. And I'm curious if that will actively impact the world. Like is the fact that we're in the Gmod, we're in Construct, it's called Construct, yes. We're in Construct from Gmod. Right, will the fact that it's Gmod actually impact the show? don't know, probably not, but it is an interesting setting anyways. And that team's safe, which means that Five Nights at Freddy's, at Gispy's, at whatever, ends up being up for elimination. Who's getting out? I don't really know. I'm gonna predict probably Fish, because Fish was kind of mean. They appeared, it was hard to read what they were saying because they were moving around so much. Like nearly every single one of their lines included them walking in or walking away, which means that they were kind of hard to read. It was kind of complicated. I'm gonna say Fish gets out. But yeah, they did a solid show, and overall, that's the show. It's pretty solid. I mean, it requires effort to watch it because you got to follow the text and all that stuff. And I personally prefer voice actor shows, but because it's big, it gives more experience. But voice acting is difficult. You're gonna need multiple people, right? You can't just do a solo. So yeah, that it's perfectly understandable to not voice act, to not deal with that part of it. Like fully makes perfect sense. And yeah, I mean overall, I've not got much else to say. Keep it up, I guess. And yeah, next. All right, and the last thing that we're going to be taking a look at today, it's not going to be a request because unfortunately I did check the current status of requests. The requests are pretty big. Like if I was to look at a request show right now, that would take me a while, to be honest, and I wouldn't be confident in my ability to get that done today, and I don't want to delay this episode. So we're gonna be taking a look at another show from the fabled list that I have of shows. This one that I'm quite behind on. With one episode, because the first episode released 2 weeks ago of this show called Object Anarchy. It is titled "Welcome to Madness." It managed to get 2,000 views since its release. It is created by the Object Anarchy channel, like it's one specific channel. It has a couple of writers linked to it. Zonk GD, nice. The Sacred Cup of Understanding, Newbie, Batched Up, and Zabek is the best word in the dictionary. So, in the dictionary. So, those are the writers of Object Anarchy. Let's watch it, let's talk about it, and let's wrap this up. Okay, so like roughly an hour-ish ago, I watched the first episode of Object Anarchy. It's been a bit because I had some stuff to do, eat food and all that stuff. But so this show, all right, is very interesting because apparently the gimmick for this show is that every writer was on at the same time and just had the same script to work with, which means that they were writing everything about the show at the same time, sort of. So their disagreement, they didn't seem to exactly have a plan beforehand, so they were just kind of writing, adding people, and doing all that stuff. So even though it is not similar at all in concept to Dibs, which is another show that we have watched that has a gimmick, it sort of shares blood with it in its style of concept, right? Dibs has a completely different concept where it's like each scene is animated one by one and there is no script, but in this case, right, but like each person writes a different part of the script. In this case, the gimmick, like it shares blood, as in it's sort of an uncoordinated way to write an Object Show episode. However, in this case, it's just you put everybody on at the same time, go, right, which causes a little bit of a mess if there's no coordination. Like there absolutely needs to be some sort of coordination going on in the actual like show, like just in the minds of people, right? Like they just gotta, like there has to be some semblance of agreement to not cause mass chaos, otherwise it's fine. Like I mean, writing stupid jokes into the script and stuff is fine, but like at a certain point you start exaggerating, and this show definitely exaggerates it. I mean, how many characters end up appearing in the show? If I'm not mistaken, 108, at least the show itself says that there are in terms of contestants, which is a hilariously large amount. Why? Because there was never a global stop. So the idea is just that you keep adding characters and adding characters because like every person is going to use a new scene to introduce a new character because they probably didn't write the scene with the character before, which means that like it just ends up causing it just causes a mass ruckus, right? And it ends up that it doesn't feel like I'm watching a object show. It feels like I'm watching a literal mess. Like you can proper feel the randomness of a script where like every individual segment is written by a different person right after one another, right? And then it just ends up, yeah, it just ends up causing mass chaos. So yeah, this is definitely the biggest problem that the writing department had when writing this episode, right? It was just they wrote too much stuff. Like they wrote too many characters, you know? At a certain point early on, somebody had to press the chillax button, right? I'm not sure exactly what the rules of writing this episode were. Like, were you allowed to overwrite what somebody else said? Were you allowed to maybe delete their writing? Because if they have a global Google Docs, nothing would technically stop someone if they're just deleting another section, right? They could have done this. So like, no, I don't want to introduce this character. You delete it, and then somebody, no, add it again, right? So like, maybe there was an agreement to not do that because otherwise I feel like somebody would have realized, right? That like, oh, yo, we have 100 characters. Can we please relax, guys? There aren't even that many writers. Hold on. There's like 6 writers for this show, and they've introduced a total. That's like 20 characters per person, bro. Okay. I mean, some of them are like completely accidental gags, like the YouTube link. And you can tell this entire show as well, the entire episode seems to be filmed, well, not necessarily in one take, but like in one session, and you can feel um like the way the person laughing like half the time to the lines. Like when like when they say all of the emojis in the script, like they literally just grabbed the guy, they put him there, and then they were like, read this, and then they just read the script just in full like every character, everything literally, featuring the YouTube link spelled out, the emojis spelled out, just everything spelled out, which is kind of funny. So we end up having like 3 hosts, I think. We end up having 3 hosts, about 100 characters. You can see how much they disagree because, like, not even the intro didn't even play properly. The world exploded at some point, I think. Maybe. It's such a mess. Like I'm just talking about the system here quite a lot because, gotta be honest, how do I actually discuss the show? Like I could try my best, but it's not gonna work. Like I can't discuss this like scene by scene. It doesn't work because it doesn't matter, you know? Um but yeah, our 3 hosts seem to be some toilet normal face emoji from GD. I mean, if not GD Zonk, at least presumably would be a GD player because it's Zoink but spelled bad. So like, yeah. Then we would have a Coke bottle, which okay, that seem to be the hosts of logic in their name. They seem to know about object shows. And then we have the announcer FL Studio speaker box, which gotta be my favorite character ever invented. But like, yeah, they exist. They're doing the thing that they are doing. They were like the in between of the chaos, and the not. But yeah, some characters appear. I like how it almost has to climb the giant stone tower, but then nope. Eventually, we end up freaking destroying. We end up having a mad amount of team forming. But there's so many. There's so much chaos going on, and it's like people make gags, but yeah, and I'm gonna admit some gags are quite funny. Like you can tell that they're quite funny when you end up reading it out loud. It's like, oh, somebody just copy and pasted Wikipedia. Time to read it into the script. Someone copy and pasted a YouTube link and made them speak. That's fun. Like I like those gags where like you can directly tell that somebody was trolling writing the script. I mean, everybody was trolling writing the script, but like those people were trolling like hard. They were omega trolling. So like that all makes sense, but yeah, like it is proper anarchy. Oh yeah, so the one set like arc thing, which is almost like barely maybe coherent, is that like we got wooden fishbowl into ChatGPT, and somebody just like asked that ChatGPT to just like in a weird over narrating voice, not an over narrating, in like in some overarching tone where a ChatGPT just yapped for a million miles to just come up with shit, and then they just pasted that the ChatGPT response into the script as the character, which is kind of funny because ChatGPT kind of speaks in some very goofy ways. Like I say, like you just know some, but like I love it when the when like you just know, I love this because I can like imagine the joke writer, you know, like I can imagine the joke writer, like you just know they went into chaos and had this idea and they were like, act, please generate me a team name for a super possum fishbowl overzealous name, and then they were like for cinematic name, and then ChatGPT just invented the dumbest stuff of all time that's cinema based, right? ChatGPT. What did he say? Wooden fishbowl and ChatGPT. Dawn of possumness. Yes, so true. Like it's like yeah, like I love that. ChatGPT might be my favorite character. And then they end up deciding to write themselves into their own team, you know, like a team of two, because they're so cool. Which, you know what? I'm just gonna say, whoever wrote that in, right? Whoever wrote of them being a rogue team, separated from the rest, that might be the smartest person on that writing department. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, because like now that you've done that, and the challenge, which was previously written to climb on top of of a giant thing, it ends up being a tungsten cube, but before it was a giant stone pillar, right? It's like now you have to win, right? Like that team has to win because every other team is going to be a mesh of 20 to 30 characters. As soon as I saw how the teams were divided, I was like, yeah, now, obviously, because you have to get all of your members up there, and it's just impossible. Nobody's coordinating those 30 people from team one will go up there before any other team, right? So then it's just like, yeah, make those other two like a team of their own, and then they're gonna win the challenge. Which is like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. No, I'm gonna lie. I vibe with whoever wrote that because it's a nice way to sort of, I guess, escape the wrath of the show, which is like an impossible to write for show. Um, for some reason, Luigi was stone, and now there's just stone Luigi, which appears for like one scene and then dips. Like there's so much chaos. I will say that some okay, like in my opinion, you can tell by the jokes that a friend group make. You can sort of immediately tell what their vibe is, alright? The vibe of this group is fine. You know, they make a lot of jokes that are fun. That like the chainsaw appearing, like yeah, this is gonna be so fucking easy or whatever the line the copy paste says, right? Like that stuff's all fun. However, the thing about it is that like there is a little bit of like, you know, there's a little bit of suspiciousness because like sometimes like when the first joke you think of on the spot is to have a character whose entire gag is that they hate gay. Right. To the point, I don't think that character says it, but like another line where it's like the one time the script reader, which I forgot their name, I'm super sorry, whoever they also animated half the episode, they're in the credits. I don't remember. Who is it? I'm so sorry. No, I must remember now. Hey, click share. Yes, hey, click share. That person. So they ended up like not reading the line because there was the F slur, and it's like, bro, chillax. you know, and it's you can kind of see it's kind of a little bit weird, and like the amount of time they mentioned being a bigot as well, like it's like that, or like the various characters mentioning that. You're like, okay, I mean, I see, but you know, I'm always gonna be a little bit suspicious of your friend groups when that's the jokes that you're making right off the bat. I'm just saying, I'm gonna be mildly suspicious. You know, just a little bit, just a little. Yep, yep. But yeah. Either way, we end up continuing. So yeah, what was it? So so there's one team. I think is this the team that ends up being up for elimination? Yeah, is you look like a cookie by. So there's like I don't even know. Aura Farm, which is a farm that Aura farms. There's giant block of Swiss cheese. There's the straw. There's H. There's the cup. There's the isn't that cup just one of the show creators? There's the paper. There's just so many people everywhere all the time. There's like a tier list. There's like the flares of like the Boykisser subreddit, like the scary GDQ from the scary thing. There's like a cookie, yeah, because the cookie got a bite out of it. Then there's the what is that team called? The lowery team name, which is from a camp that presumably they played in. So we got Z, and then we got Z, and then we got 6-7, and then 6-7 backwards, so 7-6, and then page 2 of the script. We have a PDF file and the reverse, which of course you know what that is. One from BFDI Google Translate, but distorted. It's a character from KFC, I think, that speaks in Korean. It's like, oh yeah, there's also another character that spoke only in Spanish. I completely forgot who they were, but yeah, there was EpiPen and Epic Pen. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Out of all characters in the cast, the character duo. Well, my favorite was ChatGPT because I thought that it was funny to have ChatGPT write like that. But and well, like my second favorite is probably that duo of EpiPen and Epic Pen. That's just kind of smart. It's just kind of fun. I think their assets are kind of funny, and the way that EpiPen talked was kind of funny as well. So I enjoyed those. I was a fan of those, absolutely. But yeah, there's so many people everywhere, bro. Like I don't remember like half of them already. I have an intro. I don't know if everybody appears in the intro. It's like it scrolls with its own method of randomness. So yeah, it's hold on. How many? 105 contestants apparently were in the show. So that's a high number. Oh yeah, so they end up. Oh yeah, like every time that the Korean character speaks, you get to literally hear it going like, "I'm going to say this in Korean," so they copy and paste it so they can read it because you know it's in a different language. So they copy and paste the Google Translate. Just I gotta do that too when I gotta do something like that. But yeah, there's just so much chaos, and then like characters appear that weren't even there before. I was like, bro, what in the world is happening? Oh yeah, they're in the spring world. There's spring, green spring, and blue spring. They have a line. They hate characters. And you see, in the meantime, I don't know if like, cause the thing about it is that wooden fishbowl and that ChatGPT, they like were surprisingly chilling. You know, like they were just climbing the ladder, climbing the thing, climbing the cube, climbing a big ladder. It's like, oh, I mean, that was suspiciously fast, if you know what I mean, right? Is that okay? How do you, how do y'all do that so effortlessly without random bombs exploding on you? I have a feeling that, like, and that can only really happen if you're just going under the radar, you know. And in a way, that's kind of what you gotta do. Like, it's kind of difficult, but like, you kind of gotta tactic this out, right? Because like even if you know it's just a global friend group writing thing, like if you want to get stuff in the show, you're kind of gonna need to do a battle royale because you're gonna need to keep yourself under the radar and just kind of silently write characters, right? So then it's like the other people are busy writing stupid stuff, and you're out here, you know, slowly writing a duo, and then you see, like, while everybody else is causing chaos and nobody makes any progress, you can see how like those two are just slowly climbing, and presumably that one guy who was running it goes boom, reach the top. I could be completely wrong, but that's the vibe that it gives off. It gives off the vibe of one of the riders was going under the radar, was like, okay, I'm gonna get these two to win. So while everybody else riding, I'm gonna stay low, be like they're climbing the ladder. And then when they climb the ladder, we do yes, and they won, right? Because nobody can dispute it. So nobody can dispute it, and either way, there's not really a contender for winning. And then I end the episode, right, which is pretty smart. I think that is that is probably the best way to do it. Because I mean, there's so many gags everywhere. But yeah, I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of the ChatGPT. I'm sorry, very high apologies, but I am a fan of them. And then eventually Team Cookie Bite or whatever ends up being up for Elam, including all of them. We have a triple elimination in this episode, which, sorry, I can confirm is, I think, the first show I have seen in the catch-up to feature a triple elimination as far as, like, properly as a format. We have, I think, seen triple eliminations happen before in other shows where like 3 characters get eliminated in the same day. If I'm not mistaken, debatably even now, like when I watch Object Cringe, right? Like the Object Cringe 4 remake, like that's a triple elimination right there, because you eliminated the 3 characters attached to Dot at the same time, right? So it's like you attach to Toon and Thing. So like those 3 are attached at the same time, and then they get eliminated. So in a way, yeah, right? There's apparently a different show called Object Anarchy that I don't exactly know about. Apparently, it's titled OA. They make a reference to it, by the way. So this is not that Object Anarchy, by the way. Of course, this is the new one. If that other one releases, I guess I'll try to keep an eye. I don't think it is. I think the person who made the other Object Anarchy retired or something. So yeah. But who's getting eliminated? I don't know. Think I know. Hey, bro, look at this cast. Do you think I know? We got Vaporeon, we got PDF and PDF, we got Z and also Z. We got the script and also page 2 of the script, right? And then the character that loves the script, right? Because it's like, you see, like, this is just kind of what happens. And I'm sorry, right? Okay. From the fact that these 6 fellas have managed to make, like, what is it? Freaking 105 characters in total added onto this pile of a show in one session. I'm sorry, right? But I kind of don't trust them to write an episode 2 script that doesn't add more characters. Like, at this point, yeah, okay, you have your cast, episode 2, you write it out, and you can only use those characters, right? Because otherwise, you just have an infinite show. But, like, yes, this is not happening. I'm sorry. Like, the amount of gags in this episode that were entirely, like, the gag was that a character existed. It's like, you're taking away like 40% of the material of the episode if you're forcing everybody to not add characters. But if you add characters, the show's gonna just be infinite, because, like, the cast of 105 now 140, right? So it's like, you can't add characters, but you gotta. But, like, at the same time, it's not going to be good, but at the same time, it's going to be different. Like, that has to be a major restriction placed on them, basically. Right? Like, they have to invent a way to write without actually switching out the cast at hand. And they got to, like, agree on, like, the very basics, It's like, for example, like, you can't write an elimination all at the same time. Because, like, surely you can't do that. Because how do you do that? Without just being random other scenes in the middle, in the middle of the elimination for no reason. Like, that already happened here when we did a challenge intro, then random scenes, then everything exploded, and then we had to redo the challenge explanation because the previous one was crooked, right? So it's like, that's like the type of thing that's going on. That's a little bit of an issue. So the kind of basic details, we kind of gotta get away. Like, I understand that it's anarchy, but again, the rules of Object, as far as I'm aware, I mean, the rules that are listed are entirely just everybody's writing at the same time. Doesn't mean that they can't coordinately write at the same time. Like, you can write at the same time and just be civil. You know, you know, like, you can be civil and write at the same time. You don't just gotta fucking type over each other, right? So it's like, I mean, I'm, I've, I don't know. I see the potential. I think it's interesting. It's a bit too chaos, and in general, I think the writing team was not on the same page, right? I think for this show to have been more interesting, the gags themselves are fine. They just had needed to be more on the page of a cast, right? They just needed to like be more relaxed. Like, it's like, oh, I see 20 other characters. Stop. You know, it's like there was maybe a lack of self control when it came to introducing characters, right? Introducing challenges and hosts and all that stuff. Even 3 hosts is so many hosts, right? Like, it's there wasn't enough self restraint on the writing department on that front, right? Because again, it's anarchy. You can do whatever you want, but even though you can do whatever you want, you should still not do whatever you want. You know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because a writer could go onto the script and be like, hello, I am the alphabet, and I have just brought along every letter of the alphabet to compete in the show. And then that person with one line single handedly adds 26 new characters to the show. It's like, hold on, maybe don't do that. Right? It's like, for example, you know, that's just a random example of a thing that, like, you can do it. Should you do it? No, you should never do that because that's a bad idea, right? So it's like there has to be self-restraint to not do that type of thing, you know? It's like, and unfortunately, in this case, we didn't have it. We ended up with a cast of over 100 bloody characters, bro. That's too big. It's like if Dibs, but they never stopped adding contestants. Episode 1 ended up 2 hours long with 60 people in it. Like, it just doesn't. 60 isn't actually normal, with 80 people in it. Right? So it's like, yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I really got to say about Object Anarchy. It's very interesting, you know, as just this type of like unique concept for a show is very interesting. But yeah, that's Object Anarchy. Let's do an outro. All right, and with that, that is going to be all for today's installment of Object Catchup. We took a look at a couple of things which I was kind of interested in looking at it. Purgatory was a very interesting thing that I just kind of had to take a look at. I gave it an extended because, like, Purgatory, even though it was an episode 1, it just appeared in so many places, right? Like, I saw fellow creators, right, from like, I saw it in the subscription feed, people reacted to it. I saw, like, it was already a thing that was getting shown in Roundup, right, which is Mikey's show, which I still obviously watch, and it's way better than this. And you should, and I saw it, like, it was recommended to me directly, right, in the comments as well. So it's just like, okay, stop what we're doing. We have to talk about Object Anarchy. It's just too important. You know, even like it's got a good chunk of views. Like, it is an important thing. It's like, it's rounds. It's the conversation. We have to be a part of the conversation. And everything else that we looked at was just kind of random because I didn't have anything planned after Purgatory. To be honest, I still think overall it made a pretty solid episode. You know, we took a look at the requests. We took a look at we kept up with the shows. We did some other stuff that was popular, right, on the list. So overall, I think it was a successful day. I'm very satisfied with it. And yeah, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, is II, so we're gonna need to format an episode around it because it's probably gonna release in the nighttime, so we're gonna need to deal with that. But I'll try to, you know, have it sorted so that we can talk about II pretty soon tomorrow. But I'll check more on its exact release time later. Either way, that's all. For the shows that we have talked, I always keep forgetting to say my line. Fuck. For the shows that we are caught up with, we're all caught up. Goodbye.